We now come to the fourth oral question. Lord Moylan.
My Lords, I beg leave to ask the question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, the EU is introducing changes which follow the World Organization for Animal Health feed rules and their own agreed roadmap. These permit feeding of porcine processed animal protein to poultry and poultry processed animal protein to pigs, and ruminant gelatin and collagen and protein derived from insects to pigs and poultry. The Government is assessing the implications of these changes.
Lord Moylan.
My Lords, given the association of processed animal protein with BSE and CJD in the past, if, having assessed the situation, Her Majesty's Government decides to ban the import of food produced in this manner from the EU, is there a mechanism in the Trade and Cooperation Agreement that would allow for this? And if so, is there a means of making it legally effective in Northern Ireland, given the protocol?
My Lords, can I firstly say to my noble friend that the experience of BSE has scarred both me and the Agricultural Minister, Victoria Prentice, who well remember that awful time. But can I assure him that what we have at the moment is we receive into this country meat products from countries that sign up to the OIE that are at a lower standard to even where the EU will go following the changes they have announced. So there is not a question of this concerning any trade and cooperation agreement, and meat products will still be able to be traded in and to and from Northern Ireland as it will with the EU.
Speaker.
My Lords, feeding animal remains, brain, spinal cord and small intestine to livestock in pursuit of higher profits and executive bonuses will only lead to another health disaster. So my question, will the Government legislate to ensure that appropriate food imports from the EU will carry a warning stating that the product carries the risk of mad cow disease?
Well, can I reassure the noble Lord that we are not talking about BSE here. We are talking about the products of pigs and poultry for which there is no evidence of transmissible spongiform encephalopathy. And so he can be assured that the strictest regime remains in place to protect the public and our animal health, and any changes that we make can reflect that. But just to the wider public, I would say, buy British.
Lord Hogan. My Lord, the Prime Minister's decision to sign up to the Northern Ireland Protocol has placed the province's agri-food business in an increasingly perilous situation. We were promised that Brexit would improve food standards right across the United Kingdom. But, my Lords, this will not be the case if processed animal protein is allowed to enter the food chain in Northern Ireland. The noble Lord Moylan mentioned Northern Ireland. What representatives have Her Majesty's Government made to Brussels to stop this policy from being extended into Northern Ireland? And can the noble Lord the Minister tell the House if Boris Johnson was aware that the EU's ban on animal protein was about to be lifted before he agreed to place a regulatory border in the Irish Sea?
This was a matter that was announced in May by the EU, but it had been under discussion for a long time, even when we were a member of the EU. It doesn't affect the trade in Northern Ireland or in this country, because the standard we currently have is the same as the EU. The EU are changing that standard, but it still remains considerably above that covered by countries from which we receive meat imports from around the world. So this is not an issue that is affecting the Northern Ireland Protocol or any other aspect of trade with Northern Ireland. And it is a matter that we have ongoing discussions with the EU at a scientific and animal health level, and will continue to do so.
Baroness McIntosh of Pickering.
Could I ask my noble friend what he thinks will happen to our meat exports from the UK to the EU at such time when we may import meat from countries such as Australia, which use hormones to produce beef and other methods that we don't accept here and are not accepted in the EU? Would it not be better that we agree an SPS system similar to that agreed between New Zealand and the EU at this stage to make sure that we can export meat to the EU?
I entirely understand the point that my noble friend is making, but we mustn't conflate issues relating to trade agreements with this particular issue. What we have here is the highest standard that was brought in a very precautionary way at the time of a terrible disease. Science and our understanding of this particular disease has changed, and our ability to track where processed animal proteins come from allows for a change in policy. It's not one that we have taken at the moment, but it's one that we will consider in due course with all the evidence. But it is not one that we need to conflate with the trade issues that are of so much importance to your noble lordships.
Anna Bakewell of Hartington, Mandeville.
Feeding animals processed animal protein is a revolting practice. Poultry, pigs, sheep and cows are not carnivores, they are vegetarian. Can the Minister give reassurance that no meat from animals fed on processed animal protein will enter the UK food train, no matter how many standards and checks he thinks are in place? This should not happen, and the meat should not come from any country where they have this practice.
Processed animal proteins have been long established as part of the rendering process. As a result of BSE, changes were made to prevent them. Currently, all processed animal products from this country are exported across the world for the pet food industry. And we import vegetable proteins such as soya from countries which have much lower standards of agricultural environmental protection. What I can assure the noble Baroness is that we are very cautious in this country about reducing the standards that were brought in at the time of BSE. What we're talking about here is TSE, and we are talking about pigs and poultry, treated parts that are heat-treated and are an alternative to the proteins that other farmers use.
Dodds of Duncairn.
My Lords, the Minister has talked about trade, but whatever about that, the effect of the Northern Ireland Protocol, as agreed, is that these SPS rules and laws apply directly in Northern Ireland, uniquely within the United Kingdom. Therefore, how does he protect consumers within Northern Ireland and indeed elsewhere, when not a single member of the Northern Ireland Assembly or any member of Parliament in either House will be able to prevent this proposal becoming law in Northern Ireland, which is an outrageous abuse of the sovereignty of Parliament and taking back control?
Well, I understand the point that the noble Lord makes. The truth is that products will be coming from around the world, as they are this very day, from the EU and from beyond the EU, into supermarkets in Northern Ireland and in the rest of the United Kingdom. And they will be done to a particular standard. They will not be ruminant to ruminant. And so in that respect, Northern Ireland will be no different from the rest of the United Kingdom. But I recognise the democratic point the noble Lord makes. So that is a question of the Northern Ireland Protocol, which, if he will forgive me, I won't go into today.
Lord Trees.
Based on scientific evidence, the EU proposals allowing certain processed animal protein, including insect protein, to be used in some livestock feeds, not for ruminants, I would stress, appears safe and economically beneficial. Could I ask the noble Lord the Minister, what encouragement are Her Majesty's Government giving to the development and use of insect protein as a replacement for soya in animal feed in this country?
The potential use of insect protein is an attractive concept, along with other potential changes to livestock feed controls. They will require careful consideration, assessment of the scientific evidence, and, of course, consultation. Before taking any policy decisions, officials will obtain advice from government scientists and from the Advisory Committee on Dangerous Pathogens regarding any potential risk to human or animal health. As part of the assessment, we will look at the environmental impact of any changes that would have on current imports of proteins such as soya and our current exports of animal proteins not used in Great Britain.
Baroness Chapman of Darlington.
My Lords, we all want to preserve the UK's excellent reputation as producers of the highest quality and safety of food. So what matters here is that we get a response that is crystal clear about what they plan to do, and I fear what we have heard is something of a holding response. And it would be enormously helpful to producers and consumers alike if the Noble Lord the Minister could be clear about the government's intention whether or not to maintain the current situation in the UK, and if so, for how long, and to assist those of us attempting to hold the government to account on this matter, whether they would undertake to conduct their own review of the science in this area and to publish it so that we can proceed with some kind of ability to assure consumers in this area.
I'll take the last point away and try and give the Noble Baroness some reassurance. And these are not state secrets, and there is nothing that I'm feared at sharing with anybody about the work the government is doing. But our response to changing science and changing understanding does mean that there is a degree of uncertainty for everyone, including ministers. And I just assure her that we have been considering this for a long time. The measures that were brought in as regards pigs and poultry were a precautionary measure because it was not possible at that time to easily detect the origin of where that protein was coming from. Now, with DNA, we can, and this may be a path to offer the kind of clarity that the Noble Baroness seeks.
My Lords, the time allowed for this question has elapsed.